Hey y'all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank and I'm joined by Thomas.
The scrolls are here,
I
and
don't
tonight
trust
we find out
anybody.
who.
Are you really
Yeah,
Thomas?
I'm Talomus.
Talamas? Oh my god. Uh
That was bad. It's
I'm
late.
so I'm so happy it is late. We are recording this at what, 1? Oh my god, about 2 a.m. Um I gotta give a quick shout out to Ben Mendelsohn. I forgot how dope that guy is, but his Talos is so good. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
actually, yeah, that is one of the highlights for me. I put down Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn together. It's just
Yes.
chef's kiss. Like they are so awesome together, and that relationship, and what we have an episode coming out later this week on Friday.
Hmm.
It's our review for Captain Marvel, so that we can basically have the foundation for Secret Invasion going forward.
Yeah.
And rewatching that and seeing now where the relationship is, Talos and Fury, you're like, oh man, they're real friends. Like they're giving each other shit.
Yeah.
They know each other's families. They've kind of seen. I mean, at least Talos has seen Fury kind of maybe decline a little bit, and that seems to be a central theme in this episode. What did you think about Talos, and what do you think about Fury here?
Yeah, it's an interesting personality we're seeing out of Fury. We're definitely getting more of the Samuel L. Jackson acting. Like this feels like what he would be portraying in other characters. It's not what we got who like knocked on the door for Iron Man, but they're all calling that out. They're all saying that since the blip, you changed. Now, first off, when you read, okay, let's first get this out. Spoiler alert for anybody who's new to the show. I just want to say that real fast, so I don't have to hear about it later on in the comments. But when you read the comic books, the big thing is like you don't know who to trust. Like literally anybody in the story could be a scroll. So you got to go in with that. When Nick, the way he's acting and everybody's calling it out, you're like, oh, it's an easy shot. He's probably a scroll then. But it's kind of like when you're reading a book and you can hear the person's thoughts, you know it's that person kind of thing. Though when he's by himself and he's thinking about when he got blipped out, I think that's proof that he's not. So I think we're safe with assuming he's actually Nick Fury. What do you
Yeah,
think?
definitely. I think from the start, unless they're going to do some big switch, when he gets beamed down, we are seeing Fury. Uh, I don't know if. I guess the question I want answered is was he actually at Tony Stark's funeral or not? That's the only real question,
Okay.
or was that, a scroll stand in? I don't know. But I think that's the only real question I have. I think every other Fury that we've seen between then and now has been actual Fury. So I don't know. We will find out. But yeah, it kind of starts off present day, which feels new randomly because the MCU since Endgame has jumped around so much. I don't know what's in the future, what's in the past, like what's supposed to be present day. I like that they labeled this right at the beginning Moscow, present day. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Like I know where we stand in the timeline now. It feels like a timeline refresher. Like it's like, oh, like now our palates cleanse and we can figure out like this is where we stand in the MCU timeline.
I will say having just watched Captain Marvel helped a little bit too. So if you guys really kind of want to get set for this, go watch Captain Marvel as well. Um,
Yeah, or wait and listen to our review about it on Friday.
there we go, definitely. But we are introduced to so much more. I mean, right off the bat, we have Martin Freeman. We
He's
learn as a
back.
scroll, and I really enjoyed that intro to this show because we're we're told at face value that it's Martin Freeman doing his thing. This guy's a little haywire that he's talking to. Who do we trust? And then he's being chased by somebody. Again, everything says like it's Martin Freeman. You can trust him, and he's just a trustable actor. Let's be honest. He's Watson. But yeah, he's not only is he a scroll, he's a bad scroll, and Talos is there, and he's good. So that was a really good job of kind of setting up the standard of like, do not trust anybody that you see. Um, some of
Yeah,
the
I
other
liked
ones that
it.
I think that are gonna already I'm seeing is probably a scroll is I would assume Don Cheadle is a scroll. I think Rhodey's a scroll.
I mean, yeah, that's the theory that's been going on forever. I would not doubt it. I mean, all of a sudden he's in the White House, he's with the
Yeah,
president, he knows all
yeah,
this stuff. I mean, it's like, whoa. And I love that little tidbit when Agent Prescott, who was like kind of the kooky guy
Yeah.
talking to Agent Ross. And he was like, they probably infiltrated the government in high up positions. And later on, when we hear from, what was her name? Sonia
Hmm.
Fallsworth, I think.
Yeah.
She also says they, probably some of them have infiltrated the government at higher up levels. So, of course, it seems like Rhodey would be the obvious choice. Like, it's right there. He's with the president.
I think the president is too.
Ooh.
I
I
think, yeah,
mean,
played by Dermot Mulroney, which is a solid actor.
yeah.
You notice how they were like handle it was like kind of real quiet and underneath his breath when he told Rhodey that, and so it was like, okay, I got it. Like not only is this an order from the president, but it's also from the guy who also knows who you are. So I think there's
Yeah.
that too.
There could definitely be that. I mean, I agree with you because my mind instantly went, okay, we know we're getting Captain America Brave New World, and we know that Harrison
Yeah,
Ford is going to be General Thunderbolt Ross, or I
yeah.
guess not General, he's President Thunderbolt Ross. But we
We're
also know he
both
becomes
thinking the
president.
exact same thing. I'm like, when's Thunderbolt Ross coming in? Are we gonna find out he's vice president right now, and we're gonna get this guy's a scroll? Boom. You know.
Right. But we know, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, this guy gets taken out who is the president. He gets taken out. Boom.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt Ross is now president. Brave New World.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yes, I was instantly thinking, man, this guy's definitely dying by the end of this show. Who
Yeah.
knows? But
He's out.
yeah, so we will see. I love. Okay, boom, we're brought back to Maria Hill and Fury reuniting. I love their relationship because they've been there
I
from the
do. Yeah.
start, since the beginning of the Avengers. She's been Fury's right hand woman. The first officer to his captain, and it is just like it's just they had this great back and forth. I love that relationship that they have. What do you think about it?
I kind of want to rewatch it though because the entire time I'm so worried somebody's a scroll that I'm like, he's acting a little weird. Why is she asking so many questions? That kind of thing.
Oh,
But we know by the end of this that we actually lose her. She does die in the Moscow streets. So I want to rewatch this now because now I see that those scenes beforehand were actually kind of her swan song of saying goodbye to her friend. And you know
yeah.
how every show does that, every movie does that. It's like, oh no, somebody's revealing too much of the backstory. They're about to die.
Yeah,
That's what that was, and so it's hard to tell at the time.
absolutely. I didn't think she was gonna die, but I did believe she was being genuine. Like a lot
Okay,
of
yeah,
what she said, because for all we know, Fury's been at Saber for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. Who knows how long he's
right.
been there? Maria Hill's been on the ground. She's been the street level. I figured, that she was in charge, and because of that, I'm lacking my thing here. Because of that, she is the one that has to take the charge.
Hmm.
And, I mean, she's also said, Fury, you kind of left me. You didn't like, where have you been? The communications has been sparse, man. Well, where have you been? And, yeah, so I felt like she was being genuine.
A couple times they said abandoned Earth, and he was saying basically he was afraid of something. He went up there, it followed him up there. So we see in a flashback that the thing that's kind of haunting him is being blipped out. So I wonder what followed him up there that he's talking about that made him come back down.
Yeah. That's the thing I wonder too, is like, why did he just leave Earth and then go to space? And I know they said the president, when he was telling Rhodey, he's setting up an aerospace defense system. But it's
Right.
like, all right, but why? Like, I don't know. I mean, yes, he's probably really
Yeah.
capable. He handled Shield for a long time, but why does he need to stay up there? Is also kind of like, I didn't really understand that.
I got the Tony Stark Ultron feel from it. Like when Tony Stark realized that something bigger was coming when he went to space during Avengers 1, he went into let's create Ultron to protect us, put the shield around us. And so I felt like
Right.
that's exactly what happened when he got blipped out, when Fury got blipped out. Then he's like, okay, overprotective. I need to make sure that there's a sword around my planet. And so that's what I kind of got from it. I kind of got it as a Tony reaction
I like
myself.
that. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but I mean, if that happens to be kind of the reason he abandoned ship, then yeah,
Yeah.
that seems like it totally works for me. The title sequence. Let's talk about that title sequence because it was kind of unique.
Yeah, I called it out as I think they did AI. It looks like Dolly to me. I think they did AI for it. What do you
Okay,
think?
what is that? Is that a AI
It's the
program?
AI done by open source. I think it's called open source AI. The one that do ChatGPT. It's their image generator. It's where all the faces are kind of messed up a little bit. So I get the purpose of that is the fact that it looks like, oh, the faces are messed up. You don't know who to trust.
Yeah,
And also
I
the
like
fact that
that.
you're using AI, if you did use it to animate, it's like, oh yeah, perfect. You use somebody who's not really a person to make it. That kind of makes sense for the scroll. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I liked it,
I was
man.
like, it looked good, but I don't know. I've been doing so much AI stuff lately that I think I'm like maybe losing it a little bit on that. Maybe I'm just like
Oh,
suspecting
yeah.
immediately.
You're like, why does it look so off, man? Why can't they figure it out? You're like, it's supposed to for yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many things
Yeah,
like
it worked for me.
the Duke Nukem game coming up or whatever. The advertisements for that, they spotted like, hey, you're using AI images, and they could tell because like one of his fingers is off a little bit and stuff like that. So then it's like you have to hyper look at everything to make sure that artists are getting paid, and it becomes we have to do it, but it becomes daunting. So I don't
Yeah.
want Disney to not be paying animators to do this work for them. Basically, is what I was thinking.
There you go. You're a man of the people, Frank.
Oh,
That's how you
okay.
do it. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It really worked for me. It felt, it kind of was artsy, but it also kind of made the world look apocalyptic, but it also kind of looked like maybe the Skrulls were terraforming things or redoing the Earth in a way that was suitable to them. That was like Skrullos, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I feel like the title sequence is also going to be changing as the season goes on because we've seen them do it in other shows too. Like Hawkeye, I think did it. I think She-Hulk also did that. So I don't think it's going to stay this way. And maybe the picture will become clearer and clearer as the story goes
Oh,
on.
I like that idea. That's a really good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
did you think of Skrullos? Because I liked that premise of, hey, there's a place where we actually cultivate Skrull, vegetation. We are allowed to not have we're able to be original looks. I liked that place, and I felt like it was this mix of kind of it could be a terrorist cell a little bit, but also it's a refugee camp. And it was a really interesting way of having kind of two different opposing situations in one place, and yeah, you kind of have to defend it in a way.
yeah, I thought it was great, and it was cool. I love this line too that they said earlier, where, and I'm not sure if this is from the comics, and I read Secret Invasion going into this, and obviously we should throw this out there. This is nothing like the Secret Invasion from the
Obviously.
comics.
Yeah.
All the superheroes, it kind of revolved around Iron Man and Spider Woman, a lot of it, and this obviously does not have either one of those characters in there as far as we know, and yeah, so it was unique. But they also were saying that the Skrulls could live in a what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Where you have a nuclear power going on and
Oh, like a radiation.
radiation. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's
the
going
word
to
I'm
be the
looking
key
for.
to the plan that's going on in this one for sure.
Yeah, but that the Skrulls aren't affected by radiation. So I was like, man, that's such a good idea. And I couldn't remember if this was in the comics or not, but that they could live in these sections because of the radiation and because normal humans couldn't live there. It's a perfect place for them to hide out. I love that. I thought that was so smart.
And it leads to their plan. They're trying to make a war between the United States and Russia so that eventually the entire planet will be irradiated. And then, yeah, it's just a scroll planet now because all humans are gone.
It's a good point. Good point. The other part of it too is boom, we get our first shot at Gaia, who is played by the amazing Amelia Clark, and it's like
Yeah.
it's such a trip. There's two people where it felt like it was a trip that they were in the show. One for me was Amelia Clark, and two it was Olivia Colman. I'm like just
yeah.
powerhouse actresses,
Full of
and yeah, seeing Amelia Clark in this, and the leader of Skrullos, or she kind of felt like the mayor of the welcoming party.
Yeah.
And she kind of has the sweet side, and then Gravik has the intense militaristic side for the camp. I really liked seeing her in this.
I think if we're calling our shots, I think we'll see that she'll pull ahead as like the future leader for this camp once he becomes Super Skrull and like kind of becomes a problem, and we see the camp divide into two. I want to call back to Captain Marvel. We'll talk about this further in the review for that. In that they specifically had a part where her father Talos had to shoot a couple people, and he, in disguise as a Kree, told them close her eyes or hide her eyes, and she still was able to see that he killed two people for the betterment of the situation. So I think that might have ingrained her as a little girl that like if you don't have what you need, sometimes you have to pull the trigger, because we see by the end of this, while it looks like, oh man, she's going to work with Talos, it's awesome, we already have her on our side, No, she lied. Those backpacks were dummies. So she's still fully on board with the nuclear power takeover Earth thing.
It's a
From what
good
we see.
point. Yeah, did that's a good point. I feel like did she because it seems like Gravik has this way of knowing everything that she's doing as well. Like it's kind of weird. Like maybe he's surveilling her to kind of watch where she's going, what she's doing, just to make sure she doesn't step out of line. Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely sold in that she double crossed them yet. Who
Yeah,
knows?
there could be a thing where she didn't know the backpacks are empty. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, where I'm kind of like maybe I'm just being dumb, but I could see her also, the next episode saying like I had no idea that he had already planted the bombs. I thought 100% they were in those backpacks. I tried to do my best so that you guys could pay attention, but I can't make it obvious. It's like your guys' fault that you lost track of them. So I don't know, I
Yeah.
guess there could be that side to it too, but yeah, maybe she's not completely sold yet.
I want to see her kind of be. I want her to be on the bad guy side the whole time, but also show because it's important that we see that the bad guys, quote unquote, are not necessarily wrong in what they're wanting. They were promised 30 years ago a new home. Since the blip, obviously humanity hasn't been focused on them, and we saw that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Also, like everybody who was a refugee was very useful. Then when people came back, all of a sudden all the people, the refugees, were refugees again. It's the
Right.
exact same story with this one as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that big the whole time too. I was
Yeah.
like, man, this is very similar to the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
So I want there to be an example within that camp that is like, hey, we're not bad people. We're just trying to find a home, and that Gravik is a jerk, not necessarily all the people. I would like to see that. Hopefully, I don't know. And then of course the super nerd of me is like, well, maybe Black Knight will get involved and have to try to fight her, just because I want Jon Snow to come in and save the day. At this point, I'm just such a
That'd
dork,
be great.
but that's what I want
No,
to be.
no, I mean it'd be awesome. I don't know if we're gonna get any ties to any other mainline Avengers or anything like that, but
I'd
I
hope
was a
so. With
little
the
bit.
Secret Invasion, it's too big of an event to just keep the roadie.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
God.
I know. Or to Fury even, and
Yeah.
there's a part in the comics where Fury does come in. I don't even know if it's with the Howling Commandos, but he has his own unit
Mhm.
and they come in and save the day and help out some of the heroes. And that is pretty cool. I am fine with Fury being the main guy that fixes and saves everything. But I was surprised because I'm such a sucker for the special effects and the powers and all that stuff, but I still felt like they did a good job of making it feel enough sci-fi and enough fantasy for me to still be like, yeah, this is Marvel.
Yeah.
Like it kind of gave me this feeling of old Marvel a little bit, and I know people are going to make the comparison all day of it feeling like the Winter Soldier in some regards,
That's
but
not a bad thing, though.
no, it's not. It's one of my hands down favorites, but it's like
Absolutely.
it felt like that, where it's
Yeah.
like there's suspense to it, but there's just enough special effects and power, so you're like, whoa, this is cool, like this is crazy. This is something you can't just see from, John Wick or whatever. But
Yeah.
speaking of that, the fighting was pretty badass as well.
Exactly. And I liked how I was trying to find his name just now and I couldn't find it, but Talos versus that curator. They both
Yeah,
stayed in human form while they fought, and then I mean, there was ramifications to that scene that were beyond that, which I think is going to really play into the future of Talos. But I liked how they fought it out as humans, but obviously they're punching harder. So you're like, okay, so they're both scroll, and that was kind of a budget safe way, but it also kept the scene grounded because the last thing we need is CGI versus CGI fighting. We're good. We don't need that in this. So that felt
yeah.
good.
No, oh, you're right. I love that. I thought it was just enough. Yeah, it was just enough to see how they were breaking things to see, oh, wow, they're really strong.
Exactly. That's all we
And
need. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's so sad. Then after, Fury puts two shots in him, you're like, and then you see Talos' reaction. It just like, it is heartbreaking because that wasn't his goal. Like, Talos really
Right.
probably wanted to find a new home for his people. But I just don't. My thing is, I really hope they tell us why they weren't able to find a home. Because at the end of Marvel, they fly off into space with Captain Marvel going with them, and like
Yeah.
they were out searching space. They couldn't find another home like Earth. It's like we seem to have found things on Earth that seem like Earth, with our current technology in the real world.
Yeah,
Why have
yeah,
they not figured it out with like scroll technology?
yeah.
You know, so I hope
It's
they
very
answer that.
interesting because we see that in Marvels they're going to be dealing with the Kree again. We see that in Infinity War she is like going around from planet to planet, or I'm sorry, in Endgame she's going from around planet to planet to kind of address the situation with Thanos. So it's not
Right.
like she hasn't been everywhere in space. She's just been very busy and just not helping out the Skrulls much. And Talos was in that ship to go with her, and he's obviously back on Earth. He's been on Earth for a long time. So whatever, that was pretty short lived, it feels like. So I bet there was something where like, oh, you know what? Uranus isn't going to work. Let's head back to Earth. I'll find a place later on. Something quickly happened. I wonder if we're going to get some answers to that in Marvels. Maybe even in
Man,
this.
yeah, I hope they answer it in this because it just seems like why didn't Fury keep his promise? Why didn't Captain Marvel keep their promise? Like
There's
that's gonna be
something.
a question I'm gonna have the whole time. Obviously, the who can you trust is gonna be there. We all know that, as we saw in this episode, Gravik can be anybody he wants, even Nick
Yeah.
Fury,
And he's good at
and
it.
yeah, and he's solid. I mean, he could just kind of morph and transition between like the little girl to that older guy to the woman. I mean, he just does it on a dime, and it was really cool how they did it. I loved just how they cut in between those different characters. But yeah, they gotta answer that question for me because
Yeah.
I'm gonna be wondering the whole damn time we're watching this.
Gravik is cool. And I like how Talos and Captain Marvel mentioned, like, yeah, everybody can change bodies, but to do it as well as I do takes a lot of skill and talent. And so the
Yeah,
fact that Gravik is doing it so well, you're like, oh, he's very skilled and talented. He's like an espionage expert amongst the scrolls, which is like just already so good at it. So it just
yeah.
is awesome when you tie the two together like that.
He is, and that actor too. He's so damn good. I mean, he's super convincing.
Yeah.
Just when he was saying like, I'm not the mission or I'm not the goal. The goal is for us to find home.
Yeah.
And when he was delivering those lines, I'm like, damn, this is a bad mother effer right here. He's definitely gonna like mess some stuff up for Fury and the gang.
Yeah, that's Kingsley Benadir. He's our
Yeah.
Gravik and did a heck of a good job. Really, just I mean, again, Olivia Colman is so good at everything she does. Really a great cast. I hope we get Martin Freeman to come back at some point. I think he might have been. I was noticing. I was like, you know what? I think I saw this stuff in the trailer, so I think he might be done for the series already.
Right. That's what I was
So,
hoping. I was hoping. I
dang.
was like, man, I hope we get more than just what we saw in the trailer from him because I love Everett Ross. I love Martin Freeman. It's like, come on, bring him
Yeah.
back for at least like one or two more episodes, please.
Even if you got to bring in some of the like, not low end, but yeah, low end heroes. I think it's really important that Secret Invasion shows that this penetrates into the Avengers as well, especially for
Mm,
Nick Fury, who his midlife crisis purchase was the Avengers. Show
that
that
was
hey,
awesome.
yeah, show
What a
that hey,
line.
it got through to everybody, so he sees how elevated this problem is. Rhodey's a good example of that, sure, and I could almost guarantee the president is too. But if you were to show that somebody who was fighting during Endgame was, one of these scrolls, that would be big.
That
That would
would
be really
be.
big.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. Because the other day I was also looking at like who's still left, right? I mean, Hawkeye's still out there. We're probably not going to be seeing from Jeremy Renner. Thor is still out there, but
He's
he's,
busy.
somewhere in space. And then we have Bruce Banner, who I guess is like hooking up with chicks in, space and then comes back with like badly haircutted sons. So, like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm
Technically, White
curious.
Vision's out there, but we don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, what does he do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know I'm trying to think of who kind of fits within this world that's still around. I mean, there's always a case for like Yelena Belova, like there she could be
She
out
was my
there.
go-to as well. We talked about this through a texting or Instagram or however one of the many ways we talked. I
Yeah.
cannot wait for Young Avengers. Like, just bring in the Young Avengers already, just because that's such a cool team, and they're doing a
Hmm.
hell of a good job building it up and taking their time with it. It reminds me of the, 5 years it took to get to the first Avengers movie. They're doing that right now, secretly with the Young Avengers movie.
That's
So that's pretty
right.
cool.
Yeah, I agree. I still want to see what Fury can do though, right? I mean, because right now the odds are truly stacked against them, especially with losing Maria, with not having Everett Ross possibly. Like it's just him and Talos, and Fury doesn't have powers, and we've seen
Yeah.
sometimes he's been overpowered in situations. Man, I'm excited to see what they do with Samuel L. Jackson, because you're right when you said in the beginning this feels like a very Samuel L. Jackson character.
Yeah.
Like some of the lines, I was just thinking of Pulp Fiction. I was like, he's straight up the guy from Pulp Fiction in some
Totally.
of these, and I love it. Like I mean, that's one of my favorite movies and one of Samuel L. Jackson's most iconic roles. Like, just yeah, I'm super on board with that. I just want him to kick some ass too on top of it.
Yeah. My favorite Samuel L. Jackson is Die Hard 3. And to me, as when he plays Zeus, I'm kind of getting some vibes of that too, where he's just like, he knows this better than everybody around him. And if he has to teach you, he will. But, you got to listen to him. And it's like, yes, that's so cool. I'm glad we have him back. In interviews, Samuel L. Jackson has mentioned how much he really enjoys the fact that they put him in charge or put him in the lead of this thing. So we're not going to get confused. There's nobody coming in that's going to replace him in this. He's the one that's in charge of this project. And then it was just good to hear how excited that got him. So I was like, okay, that means it's a good script too, because he knows what he's doing. So
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
he's also executive producer on it too. So
Yeah,
he's making the extra cash, but at the same time, he's got a lot more at stake as well.
yeah. Uh, I think this is a good episode. I think it's a really good start to a new series. And I told you again, my favorite thing about this first episode is it did exactly what I wanted from the comic books. I'm not sure who the hell a scroll is, and I'm questioning literally everybody. So I do like that they did that. That was hard to do, but I'm on board now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The trust is not there right now.
Yeah. Um, some of the writers on this, by the way, guys, if you've watched Mr. Robot, it's got one of the writers from that. The director has done a lot of spy thrillers. Like my dad has seen a lot of these things, like The Condor, Manhunt, a lot of things like that. So that kind of tells you what we're looking at here. We're looking at well written, but also just like, how do I explain this? Like, God, Expendables kind of action. Like I think we're gonna get some of those scenes coming up too. Looking at the director and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very nice. And we talked about it before offline as well, talk about other things. I think this was marketed right because a lot of what we saw in the trailer is was kind of showed here in the first episode, and I still don't know where this season's going. I mean, we have an idea, right? I mean, he's eventually Fury's going to have to face Gravik, but there's so much that can happen in between then
Yeah.
that I'm super excited. I just think that they got me hooked from what I saw in the trailer, and a lot of the trailer came from this episode, which was episode 1. That's amazing.
I want to throw out one of the questions we need answered is the fact we don't know what happened to Talos' wife. So we have to figure that
Right.
out too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I love that line was what brought Talos and Gia back to Talos.
Yeah.
Like, hey, your mom's not here, but she would be proud of you. And that reaction, Amelia Clark just can do it all, right? I mean, she just has
Yeah.
this insane range of emotions she can portray, and that of like, oh my God, and loss, and there was even to me a look of like doubt, like, am I helping the wrong person? Am I helping the wrong side? Like, did I betray my mom in some way? Yeah, I wonder.
She
Yeah,
literally
do
found out her
scrolls
mom
die from
died
old age?
just there. No,
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think it's from old age. And he specifically calls out the person you work for, which they didn't even, that's the other thing too. They didn't say Gravik, so there might be somebody else. There might be somebody above Gravik. We know how this is going to work out. But the person you worked for is the reason your mom died. So we don't know what that means. Yeah.
True, true. And they said the council, right? I mean, Talos has been excommunicated from the council. Gravik's filled his spot. But who else is on the council, and where are they?
Yeah.
I'm
That's true.
curious about that.
Yeah, because the council is meant to be somebody. It's not like it sounds like the council's generally pretty good, but then Gravik came in. He's part of the council now, and he's rallying the younger scrolls, which are all kind of like they grew up on Earth, while the other scrolls didn't. So it's and this is the creed of it all. We have so many questions to answer. I
Yeah.
can't wait to get into it. That's gonna be fun.
It is. It is. I heard the second episode also just carries it on. It's kind of a nice little ending arc. I don't know, beginning arc, I should say.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm really loving the tone of this.
Yeah, me
Tone
too.
and the action is just spot on. So good.
Let us know what you guys thought of the episode. Give us your feedback on YouTube, on Twitter, everywhere. We appreciate it. And who do you think is going to be behind all of this? Because I don't think it's just Gravik. I think he's actually a puppet. Now that we've been saying it, I'm thinking like there's something more. But let us know what you guys think. All right. I think that's it for this one. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Aloha.